he was like, "You're worse than Trump." I'm like, "What? Why do you think that? What?"
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of Unstereotyped Real Life, the podcast where we highlight Latinas who are chasing their dreams and show younger generations that they can follow their passions despite what society thinks and expects of them. My name is Melanie Hernandez, and I'm the proud host of this podcast. Now, please welcome the second guest of this podcast and my good friend, Jennifer Segura.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited that you're here.
Me too. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. So you are the student care coordinator at Northlake College, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a bit more about what you do?
So my role is really interesting, especially because it is in the field of social work. And a lot of times people identify social work with like a lot of different other roles. In my role, I'm a student care coordinator, so I focus on helping students access resources, specifically the tangible resources, so like food, clothes, even as far as transportation, so like how do you get a DART pass and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of connecting students rather than like actively engaging in like counseling or maybe like more direct work. So it's a lot of putting myself out there and also exploring like what's working and what's not working for our students, but it's a really cool job.
So you're mainly providing them with a lot of resources?
Yeah.
Okay. And what other experiences did you have in this field before coming into this job? I know you said it's social work, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, prior to this, I was doing a lot of K through 12 social work. So I was in spaces such as Title I schools, both elementary and middle schools. So a lot of that work was very intense, especially working with like students of a lot of heavy backgrounds and then while also trying to unravel their development. There's like a lot of pieces to that kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I decided that I wanted to go into higher education just because it was something that I hadn't really challenged myself with. Having worked with children for like 4 years, I hadn't really thought about working with adults. And so in this role, it really, not only was I in a brand new environment, but it also was a lot of reflecting of like all the things that I went through, especially when I was navigating college for the first time. So
Yeah.
it has so many different pathways to where I'm at today. So I kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I feel very much extremely experienced, but also there's still so much room.
Yeah,
Grow and
for sure. I feel like since you are in the college now, you're probably taking a lot from like your own experiences and like what you were thinking at that age, coming to you for help.
Oh, for sure. Especially because when you think about it, I know for me coming to college, I remember looking at my mom and my grandma leave my dorm and thinking, I'm never going to tell them what I'm going through. I'm never going to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not asking them for help because what was the point of their sacrifices and for me to need all the help, right? So then immediately it was just kind of like a fend for myself. But with this job, it's kind of been an opportunity for me to be someone that I wish I had run into in higher education. So it's really cool because not only am I like fulfilling my purpose as a social worker, but I'm also kind of healing a part of myself from a long time ago.
I guess that kind of leads me into how do you explain your identity to somebody, like in terms of like ethnicity, first generation student, immigrant, etc.?
I think I put on all the hats when needed.
Mm-hmm.
I am a first generation student. On top of that, I'm the first and the only person in my family who left home to go to a 4-year institution. And that was only because I got the privilege of having a full ride to school. But I think all those identities, I carry them so strongly of just not only am I a first generation student, I'm a daughter of immigrants. I'm a sister. I'm like a friend. I carry all of these roles, and my identity as a Latina woman is so important in all of those spaces because a lot of times when people talk about representation, I think they associate it with your profession and the work that you do, but it also goes beyond the kind of friend that you are, the way that you show up for others that aren't your friend and others that are just a stranger, a neighbor that you just met. So I think identity just plays a big role in the way that I shape my way of being and how I interact with others.
And both of your parents came from Mexico, right?
Yes, so my mom is from San Luis Potosí and my dad is from Guanajuato, Mexico. So it's very cool because they're two different areas. For example, my mom lived more in the city, whereas my dad lived more in rural areas. So just being able to see their upbringings and all that.
Yeah, it's very different.
It's so different. And then thinking of the life that they built here is so cool too. So, but yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know if you heard about what's going on in Mexico right now. That's scary.
It is very scary, especially because my dad came back from Mexico this weekend. And then I think that it's really interesting seeing people kind of accused of like fear mongering, but it's like, no, like this has been even before this instance occurred. Like there's so much fear about don't let your daughters outside.
Just a little bit more context. Police officers shot and killed the leader of the Jalisco cartel. And so obviously that's going to have a big retaliation and a lot of people are going to be affected who had nothing to do with it. So it's just a very sad situation all around. And I have seen the individualism in America is kind of making it about themselves. Like, oh my God, now I have to cancel my trip. Like, I'm going to lose a lot of money. And it's like, people are going to die.
And I think also not even just in American culture, but the individualism is so harmful because we're no longer thinking of the impact of others.
Exactly.
Yeah, other people will die, and how are we going to support those communities? Or how can I offer maybe words of warmth and during a challenging time? Because I think we're immediately thinking like, oh, thank God I didn't plan my trip to Mexico. It's intense even just thinking about other things that are happening in the world and all that. But I don't know, individualism is so, it's something that it irks me so much. I see the value in it, especially, you know, whenever you think of all the hardships that one has gone through of like, well, I worked for this, you know?
Yeah.
But there's also more that goes to it, especially,
And I feel like especially in your career, like you can't have that individualistic mindset, like at all. Like then you wouldn't be good at your job.
No, and it's very interesting that you say that because I think that is a part of why people get really like sad when they hear that I'm a social worker.
Really? They get sad?
Or more just like, your job must be so hard, or you must go through you must
care about people.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think there's some really heavy stories, especially when I was working in elementary and middle schools. You get those comments a lot.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking like, I work with children. Maybe their parent is imprisoned. Maybe their parents aren't in the picture, or there's a lot of family dynamics that are impacting how they come to school. And yes, those stories are sad, and there's spaces where we validate them and make sure that the student is heard, but it also goes beyond that. It's like, I don't take it home with me, but it is something that I acknowledge of, this was a hard part of my day, but it's not going to shape the way that I think it, the way that I feel. But yeah, I can't be an individualistic person in my role, even that, because like a lot of people think that social work is just in my job. No, it's everywhere that I go. It's how am I helping someone? Maybe a neighbor told me that they are struggling to put food on the table. Okay, did you know that there's food pantries at here and there? And did you know that you can access this resource so they can help you pay for this bill and things like that? So my mind is always thinking of, oh, how can I help you and how can I serve you?
Yeah.
And wait, but that is naturally who I am too. No.
That's nice. We need more social worker mindsets now. It is that individualism is kind of plaguing us right now.
A lot.
But what made you want to go into social work?
There are so many things that really kind of guided me into social work. My undergrad was in psychology, so I always knew I really wanted to help people and be in a setting where I was helping them navigate trauma, their experiences. But once I graduated and it was post-grad, I realized there was I wanted to do something more, but I didn't really know how to do it. And I always told myself I was going to get a master's too. So there was no if, ands, or buts if I was going to do it. It was where I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then funny story, my mom not a funny story, but a story that kind of brought all this together. Before my mom immigrated to Texas, she was working on her social work degree in Mexico. And she was just about to take the exam, but both my grandma and my grandpa couldn't pay for it for her just because it was very expensive during that time. And so she came to Texas. She was only going to come for a few months so she could save up money, go back and get her license. But once she was here, she realized life was much better over here, and it would be easier for her to maybe raise children one day and create a life here. And she never got to fulfill that dream. And interesting enough, I went to a social work seminar that just kind of told us about the program and all that. And I decided to go for it. And it was really it was truly a full circle moment for both me and my mom. Not even just because that was something that was her dream and that she wanted to accomplish, but being able to see that through my eyes and my experience, because I was always calling her about this, about my classes and how hard it was, because interesting enough, it was shaped the same way of there's all these different ways that you can help someone, whether it's medically, if it's from a macro perspective or micro, I can't remember, but there was 7 different ways in which you could become a social worker in Mexico. And it was sort of similar here. And so it was just really cool to kind of fulfill that dream, or my mom fulfilled that dream kind of through me.
Yeah.
And that once I started studying it, I was like, this makes sense for me. This is who I want to be. And now I am a licensed social worker. In fact, it'll be 1 year in a few weeks that I got my license. So it's really exciting. I know my mom and I stared at my license for so many minutes, maybe even an hour, because it just didn't feel real. It was one thing to get my master's, it was another to get my license.
Yeah.
My first year, I remember thinking, all right, then it's full send. And I did. I was a full-time employee and a full-time student. So that was really hard. And I did full-time practicums, and it was cool because my mom did practicums in Mexico too, where she worked at hospitals and all that. But she would tell me, I used to wake up at 5 a.m, take the bus to school, and then once I was done with school, I had to go to the hospital, and I didn't come home till very late. So she didn't tell me the story. I don't know how it even came up. And then I was almost mad because I'm like, how could you never tell me that?
No, that means it's kind of in your blood then to help people.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But which is funny because my mom and I have pretty different personalities. But yeah, I always knew from the moment I was born, I'm going to help someone. And even once in how in pre-K or first grade you start developing, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah.
I was a lawyer, I was a therapist, I was everything but someone in and off. And so yeah, it's really interesting. But yeah, since I was little, I knew I was a giver, and I knew I was a people person.
So I guess you could say then your parents are pretty supportive of your job choice and when you want to.
Oh yeah, I know. Growing up, because I really wanted to be a lawyer. So my parents, I think when I went into psychology, they were like, you sure you don't want to be a lawyer? And I think long term, a lawyer is much sustainable. But it's a long schooling process, and I didn't really want to go through that. But no, they've always been super supportive. And like I said, I was blessed to be able to get a full ride into my undergrad. I don't know if I mentioned that. Yes. I got a full ride into my undergrad. Mm-hmm. So my master's was another, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to do this for myself, for my parents as well, but I'll pay for it. I'll take care of it. I don't want my parents to carry this with them, because they did kind of feel very responsible for my undergrad. But I was like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
You're like, I got it.
Yeah.
And so I guess now in your current job, how has it been? Have you been having fun with it? Is it a diverse place to work? Do you feel like you fit in?
Oh my gosh, yes. I think in the role that I'm at, it's so flexible and my role, I like to call it dynamic because I could really do anything. There could be days in which I'm tied to my desk and I'm looking at numbers and I'm creating data sets, just evaluating like, okay, how is my pantry doing? Are we getting a huge turnout? But then there's also times where I want to go to Urban Cares and I want to see their pantry, or this church across the street, they have a food pantry. I want to see their food pantry. How can I help them? So I really take on a lot of different personalities in my role, which I think is great. Specifically, the campus I work at, it's the highest international population in our local community college district. So that is also a big responsibility because making sure that our food pantry and our clothing closets are both inclusive and they're welcoming, because a lot of times it's easier to walk into a food pantry than it is to maybe walk into a counseling center or walk into our health services offices maybe. So I've kind of shaped both my food pantry and my clothing closet to be spaces that are warm and welcoming, and they're like hubs of connection.
Mm-hmm.
So it's such a cool role. I really feel like I've grown so much as a professional.
What types of skills did you have to develop for this job?
You definitely, one, you have to be an empathetic person. And like we mentioned before, you can't really just think for yourself. You really have to think of others and see a person as for who they are and the experiences that they've gone through. A lot of times whenever I train, like my work studies, students who work in our food pantries and our clothing closets, I always make sure to have them or teach them to lean with curiosity and never judgment, because it's so important to see, oh, the student seems to be taking a few more things from our pantry, a little bit extra. Lean with curiosity and ask, hey, like, how are you doing? Oh, I see you're taking a little bit extra. Don't worry about it. Like, if you need to take more, let me get you another bag, or let me get you a reusable bag. That way you can stuff it and take as much as you need home. Also being open to feedback and suggestions, because every space works differently. And I know from like my international students, they're always telling me like, Miss, you need to have better protein, maybe better protein that we're able to take home. Because sometimes I will get a truck and only have like pork and red meat. And then I'm always like, oh, I'm so sorry. But you really have to be someone who thinks on your feet and can navigate through different challenges. And I know you got to experience the government shutdown with us, so that was definitely very interesting. So being able to talk to others and let them know, like, this is a hard time and I'm hearing you. And so, I don't know, there's not really one specific personality you really have to have this job. It's just to have a really big heart. And yeah.
You gotta adapt to like everything.
Oh yeah, adapting is really interesting. We got in the fall. We got 2 orders of 20,000 pounds of food, and the first one was just a walk up, and we had community members who were impacted, who were furloughed through the government shutdown. They were impacted by the SNAP pause. So then that became an opportunity. For example, those government workers, like, oh, have you ever thought about applying for SNAP? And it's like, no. It's like, no, let me tell you a little bit about it. Like, I promise. So, yeah, the adaptability is so important, especially because you never know what's going to happen next week and things like that. So, yeah.
And what of these skills do you think just come naturally to you? And what do you think is also part of like your cultural background?
I think culturally, something that I've always really taken from me, and it's not really like a trait, but I remember growing up, my mom was like, you will never lose your Spanish. I remember thinking, ma'am, like, please let me speak English at home. But she never let me lose my Spanish. And because of that, the impact that I have on people, the second they hear, oh, ¿cómo estás? ¿Con qué te puedo ayudar? Changes everything. It's like, you speak Spanish? Oh my gosh, I've been trying to figure out like how I'm able to get my immunization records. Like, where do I go if I need help with this? And it's like, it opens the doors to so many conversations that they probably have been just wanting to have with someone, but they don't have a space that's safe enough to ask it. And then with the language barrier, sometimes they feel scared to speak English. And so I think that is something that I really, if it wasn't for my culture, I wouldn't have had it. The culture that my mom had of, you're not losing this Spanish and you're going to thank me later. And I thank her every day, because from there, I've also tried to develop therapeutic Spanish language of how to have conversations that are both trauma-informed and understanding in Spanish, because that's not very common. So I think those are things that I've really developed culturally. Also just resilience, thinking of the things that my mom endured, and my dad as well. My dad, I can't remember how old he was, but he was very young and he went to high school. It was him and another friend that didn't speak any English. So, and then you look at my dad now, you're like, oh my gosh, just looking at them now and all the successes and accomplishments that they've had, that's the resilience that's rooted in me.
Yeah.
And I've always also had something told to me of, there's no such thing as, for when I say I don't know, there's no such thing, because I always know. And that is true. And I think that's something I developed from my mom and my dad of, if I say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to get to it, but I will.
It'll get done.
It'll get done, especially when you think about being a full-time master's student and a full-time employee managing 100 students who were going through all these traumatic things and all that stuff. But I did it. So I think the resilience and the push of having that cultural background really shaped me into who I am. One of my practicums that I did, I was working actually for the city of Dallas, and I was doing home visits for adults with disabilities. And I was given, when I was hired on, well, not hired, I wasn't paid, but when I was brought on, I remember my supervisor telling me, oh, thank God, because I'm going to give you all my Spanish speaking. And I remember thinking, that's not good.
No.
You should rely on an intern to be able to do that work for you.
You should be prepared.
Yeah, you should be prepared, especially if you see the demographics that need the support.
Yeah, like if there's an obvious need.
Yeah, you should be looking for that. So I had gone to a mental health conference last year, and I remember one of the speakers, he said, if the representation is there, just people aren't looking for them. And I can totally see that, especially in social work, of if you know that your institution or organization needs more Spanish speakers, maybe we need more. I know I also had a space in which I was working with refugees from other countries. So, there's a need for Farsi, there's a need for all of these languages. Why aren't we looking for them? Or why aren't we encouraging our colleagues that speak those languages? You should really look into these spaces and all that. So I think there's just such it's a big institutional thing and a systems thing that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. And I know the majority of social workers are women as well. Men are kind of a minority in this industry.
Yes, and that is another big thing, because a lot of specifically, I've seen it a lot in our younger generation, when they see a man in their space, especially maybe a man of color, it's so impactful and it's so moving. But to think that is so brief, that interaction will only be here, and then the student will grow up and maybe never see anyone in those spaces. So there's huge discrepancies both in the genders and the ethnicities in our field.
Yeah. But how do you collaborate with the other teachers or administrators to support students in the community at your work?
So that is a big part of my role, just because we want to make sure that our students have access to our resources. In our food pantries, we not only just have the 7 food pantries on all 7 campuses, we also have satellite campuses that have food pantries. And we get about 100,000 visits per year. So that's a lot of students. The way that I've been able to successfully talk to professors and staff is to just go into their office and tell them about the resources that we have, and a lot of times we'll do classroom presentations where I have them invite me to their classroom and I come and I talk to students. I've had the privilege of doing that in English and in Spanish, which has been really cool because we also serve adult learners and continuing education students. So it's usually the non-traditional learner.
Yeah.
But definitely being able to talk to them about, I've always pitched Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like a big triangle. And at the bottom, it's physiological needs. And then it's safety and I believe it's safety and security. And then belonging. But it's basically, as people, we start here at the bottom. So our basic needs being met. If my basic needs are being met, then okay, I'm feeling safe. And if I feel safe, then I feel like I belong here. So especially at the campus that I work at, thinking about our international population, thinking about our student parents, our adult learners. So if they don't have access to food, then they're likely not feeling safe where they're at. And they don't feel safe, and they probably don't feel like they can come to school and really pay attention because they feel connected. So once I paint that picture to them in that way, they're like, oh, well, yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about it like that, especially for those students that just go to school from 6 to 8 and they don't really get to engage with classmates and really get to talk to their professors. They just come to class and go home. So through that conversation and through that dialect, we've been able to really, and just basically the time that we spend with our students, make sure that it's intentional and not just an educational, like, oh, don't forget to do your homework, don't forget to do this assignment.
Yeah.
So collaboration is just really important because I can't be the only one having these conversations.
Yeah.
So when you educate others on how to have those conversations with others, it allows professionals like faculty and staff to be able to feel comfortable to ask, hey, like, is there something you might need help with? Have you taken advantage of our resources here? So it's been really cool because I've had to be really creative with it because not everyone can listen.
Yeah. And what kind of impact do you hope to make in the lives of the people that you help?
I think thinking about navigating adulthood as a first generation student was really heavy because there were so many things that I couldn't figure out. Like, I didn't know how to study. I didn't know how to like understand an AP format. It was really hard. It really needed to explain to me like 6 times. But just not having having education and really knowing life are two different things. So I think that I truly do want to be someone I wish I had ran into in every phase of my life, whether it was when I was an adult or when I was freshly in college and even in middle school, somebody I wish I could talk to and ask like the questions of, okay, so how does financial aid work? What happens when I submit this? And then how do I file for taxes? What does it mean to be a dependent? Things like that I didn't really, the more that I tried, I couldn't understand it. I just hope that I can run into a student and really help them figure it out. Especially, I have a student actually that's transferring to UNT because of how highly I talked about it, which I think is so sweet. And that in itself is like a testament to like the work that I'm doing and how I'm helping my students really navigate through a tough time, because usually when you get to college and you're past 18, you're kind of by yourself. Even if you live with your parents or you're living with a relative or a friend, you're still by yourself trying to figure out what it is to be an adult in this world.
Yeah. And also I feel like college is just such a big transitional period in your life. Like either people who just got there from high school, or you're going to transfer to UNT, or you're going to graduate. Like you are figuring everything out about yourself.
Yes, and it's so much harder, especially because I know when I came to UNT, it was a huge culture shock. So it was really hard seeing friends that they had it together. Like they knew what it was like because maybe their older sibling came to UNT, or maybe they had a cousin that had already come here. But it was really hard because when you're in a space where everybody has it figured out and you don't have it figured out, then you're more likely to just sit back and just not share your hardship and things like that. So it's definitely a tough transitional period.
Yeah. And what are some of the challenges that you face at work, and how do you handle those challenges?
Something that we do in social work is we always check our biases. And it's so easy to be like, I know that person. She's struggling. She's always going through something.
Yeah.
But then that just removes the human of the student, because we're just judging her based on like her experiences or their experiences. So I think that has been really hard in my role. And then sometimes it becomes like you start to do it too a little bit, but then you kind of have to take a step back and remember the work that you're doing. So that has been definitely like a big challenge, especially because we are working with adults. And it is true, as an adult, you have higher accountability than maybe like a middle schooler, but still being able to sit back and understand their situations and their experiences.
Because I know that does happen, like somebody that you're helping can still be super rude to you. But that's probably just due to like their own experiences, and you still have to help them out because,
Yes, I think they had a really funny experience one time with a community member that came into my pantry and it was empty.
Like there was...
We didn't know there was food. There was canned goods. There was dry goods. But I think he was wanting to... He wishes that maybe I had chicken or milk and stuff like that. And I didn't have that. And he was like, "You're worse than Trump." I'm like, "What? Why do you think that? What?" That's a very polarizing...
I would be so offended. I'd be like, what?
I told him, I was like, that seems like a very polarizing thought. I didn't know it had anything to do with this. But I did, at the same time, I had to think, I don't know what you went through today to feel how you felt. But even when you have those like weird, funky experiences, it's just, well, I don't really know what you went through. It changes, and everything changes when you start to react too.
And since helping people is like the majority part of your job, how do you make sure that you're caring for yourself and, preventing things like burnout? Like, what do you do to mentally and physically distress?
I think burnout really has to do a lot with how you advocate for yourself. Mm-hmm. And I know for me, I'm blessed enough to have a space where I'm able to say, oh, I'd like to take a step back and I need a break. And I'm going to take that break, whether it's I'm going to take PTO or luckily through my role, I get mental health days. So preventing burnout is a challenge, but it really is also a challenge to yourself of what are your boundaries? When are you going to be able to say, I'm not going to do that?
Yeah. But can you tell us a bit more about your day-to-day work life and what it looks like? I know that not every day is the same.
So my day usually looks like I clock in. I wake up, I go to my office, I check my emails, and then once it starts to be 8:30, I walk to my food pantry, which is really interesting. I know when I say like I manage a food pantry and a clothing closet, it feels like just that. Like I'm a store manager.
Like you gotta go, you're literally clocking in, like unlike the door, turning it in.
Yes. And so literally I open the door, I turn on the lights, I start brewing the coffee for our students. Maybe I'll organize a couple things. I turn on our computer for students to sign in. And then from there, like my work studies come to work. They take care of everything. And then after that, it's kind of like where the magic kind of starts flourishing. I get out of my office, I maybe go to an event, I talk to faculty members, or I love to talk to student organizations. I think that's something I've really been like putting a lot more effort into this year. So it's just really like connecting with people most of the day, which sometimes people can't believe that is my job, but it really is. I get paid to talk to people and to get to know others and maybe like expand our services in different spaces, because we have like pop-up pantries. So I have a pop-up pantry at our nursing department. So maybe I'll load up a cart with like cans, cereal, and things like that, and I'll go and stock up our other pantries. And I don't know. My job is so much fun. I think my everyday is so much fun. It's not the normal social work role, which is something that I'm very blessed to be able to do every day. But it does look different every single day, and you've got to experience all of it. So it is definitely funky.
Yes, I actually did. I got to shadow you at work. And lucky for the listeners, I documented some scenes from that day, which I would love to share and jog your memory. So I did. I gathered photos and audio and compiled them for this segment I like to call A Day in the Work Life. So
Cute.
I'll play this video that I created, and then we'll talk about it after, okay?
They giving out free merch. They was giving out free merch.
It looks good. Where is it?
Remind cars that they're able to pick up for additional families. So the 2 questions that you ask at each car is, all right, so I'm gonna put in number 1 and you're gonna be all set, okay, hon? Do you have any questions? How many families are you? If you plan on putting things in cars, get a vest and put it on. Mm-hmm. Do you want to case yourself? Okay.
Yeah, I'm about to get it.
Oh,
What was going on?
So it's our drive-through distribution. We do them every month, and we rotate campuses. So that day we were at our Cedar Valley campus. But it was a fun, long day.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, seeing your day compiled like this?
I think it's so much fun. I think I hopefully it can reflect in the pictures and the sound, but I have a lot of fun doing what I do. And those events in specific, I have almost 10 times more fun because I get to go to each car that we're serving and just ask them about their day, how they're doing. A lot of times it's their first time coming to drive-through distribution, and they've been waiting since 6 a.m. So it's just really nice to talk to them and just kind of welcome them in, because I'm kind of the first person that they interact with that day. So making sure that I have high energy, making sure that I'm just the best version of myself. And then we load up cars with groceries, and it's so cool. The fact that I get to do it every month is kind of crazy, because sometimes when I talk about it, it feels like, oh, I only do this once a year. No, I do this every month.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun.
The volunteers and, other people who it's their job as well, like, you guys have created such a nice community. You're all talking, laughing, ready to get started and helping everybody. It feels like a very nice environment for people who need help.
Oh, for sure. And like with my team, a lot of us, we don't see each other. We only see each other once a month, and it is for that event, for those events that we have every month. But it's such a great, it's like a family. So we all see each other. Oh my gosh, how are you? How are you doing? How's work? And then we have our campus stakeholders that come. So I think we had a baseball team when you came. We had a lot of different students that come and volunteer. And then we also have some community members. But like that just goes to show how big the connection is. The network just grows and grows and grows. And it is like, we can't do this if we're not happy to be doing it. Because if you were to be doing it with like the attitude of, oh, here you go, it doesn't make people want to come back. So it's cool. I think we distributed about 21,000 pounds of food that day.
And if you could send a message to your younger self right now, what would you say?
Oh, honestly, like I really think that be kinder to yourself, because what we did, it was hard. And I think thinking of it now that I'm 28 years old, that I've got my job, I've got my profession, right? Thinking of it now, I wish someone had told me, hey, this is really hard and it's okay that you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this is really hard, migrating here and trying to figure it out all by yourself. That's really hard. Yeah. And it's okay. Be kind to yourself. So I think it's like one of those generational, not just me, but my mom and maybe her mom, to be kinder to themselves, because as Latina women specifically, it's like we always have to figure it out. We always have to have our ducks in a row, everything, the answer to everything. And I can't imagine, like, even just for my mom, she had to have the answers for me because I was asking the question. So just be kind to yourself.
What advice or message can you give to other young Latinas who want to pursue this career?
So social work is such an incredible field that has so many different little nooks and crannies that you can explore. I think whenever you start your social work journey, especially in your practicum and your internships, that feels like, I can't do this. This is too much. But keep going, because eventually, once you reach the end of the tunnel and you work towards your license, the world is truly your oyster. It's a really good time to reflect on what you're passionate about, what it is, what are the spaces that you want to be in, and how you can get there.
Is there a social worker that you look up to currently? It could be someone you know, or maybe an influential figure.
She's a UTA professor. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she is so great. And it's so funny because some of my supervisors are good friends with her. But what I love about her is just how unapologetic she is about how her Latina identity plays in, like, or is intercorrelated with, like, the work that she does and the speeches that she gives. And I think there's so many. I love to say that the social workers that are right there giving the speeches and giving the presentations, most of them are Latinas. So it's so cool. And then even then, they're working towards creating a network where we have tiny conferences of Latina social workers in the DFW area, which is really awesome. But I wish I could remember her name.
It's okay. Do you know who Antonia Pantoja is?
No.
Well, this educational segment is called Women Before Us, where I highlight a notable woman who shares the same profession as the episode's guest. So hopefully their story can inspire you, or maybe educate the listeners on someone who made a massive impact in their field. And so Antonia Pantoja was a pioneering Puerto Rican educator, social worker, feminist, and civil rights leader, as well as the founder of several institutions in New York and Puerto Rico. Her life's work revolved around educational access for the disadvantaged and community self-determination. She is considered one of the most important Puerto Rican American leaders. So she was born in 1922 in San Juan, Puerto Rico. She earned her teaching degree from the University of Puerto Rico, then moved to New York City in 1944. She got a BA from Hunter College and an MSW from Columbia University, and then a PhD from Union Graduate School. And all of her academic work was centered around experimental higher education in the U.S. And then she was also on faculty of the School of Social Work in San Diego State University and founded the Graduate School of Community Development in San Diego, which is an institution that served communities and neighborhoods throughout the nation. And she was also involved in a bunch of community and professional organizations like the National Association of Social Workers and the Council on Social Work Education. So she kind of shared the same, centralized topic like education as we do. And so one of her main goals was to enhance civil rights and educational opportunities and to promote positive imagery and self-love for Puerto Ricans in New York and beyond. And during that time, like, a lot of her professional life unfolded during, like, big political, social, and economic changes and upheavals, like post-war history of U.S., New York, and Puerto Rico. So that was a time where a bunch of Puerto Ricans were moving into New York, to the United States. And so in 1957, she founded the Hispanic American Youth Association, or AYA, which later became the National Puerto Rican Forum, and it focuses on education and self-sufficiency. And this is one of the main things she was known for. In 1961, she founded Aspira, an organization with the focus on cultural pride, education, leadership training, and community service for Latinx youth. Aspira has provided approximately 50,000 Latino students with career and college counseling, financial aid, and other assistance. And around 1964, her emphasis kind of shifted from self-help programs to the reformation of the educational system. And so in 1970, she created and subsequently led the Puerto Rican Research and Resource Center in Washington, D.C. And then one huge result from that project was the founding of what is now Boricua College, which continues to cater to Puerto Ricans, Latinx, and other underrepresented communities in higher education in New York. So now she has like her own school over there, and so that's pretty cool. And then a key point for Pantoja was access to language resources for Spanish-speaking Puerto Ricans and other Latino students in public schools. So in 1972, Aspira sued the New York City Board of Education and demanded they provide English for speakers of other languages, ESOL classes, in New York City classrooms. And then in 1974, they won that lawsuit, and the court ruled bilingual education must be offered to every student who needed it. And so today, Aspira continues to be a major nonprofit organization serving the Latinx and other communities in New York, Puerto Rico, and several other states. And fun fact, she was actually the first Latinx woman to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Bill Clinton in 1996. And one of her many friends and colleagues wrote that she never had a conversation with her that when she was not addressing or worrying about a social concern or an injustice. Her work was constant, her mind never rested, and everything she did was steeped in her values and ethics. As a result, her friends and admirers were both in high places in the barrios, they were politicians, fundraisers, policy gurus, and in the arts. They lived in the contiguous United States, in Puerto Rico, and in many parts of the world. Her friends and admirers were of all ages and all ethnic groups. And so, what do you think of her achievements? Does it parallel any of your goals or motivations?
Oh, yeah, especially when you think about the bilingualism aspect, is when you look into our schools, it's we're not really prioritizing that anymore, prioritizing our students, especially those with English as a second language. So I see that and I'm just like in awe, because that's something that she was working on then, and it's something that needs a lot of work now. So just bringing that foundation of speaking Spanish and speaking another language and the value of it. But I definitely see parallels, especially just in the work that she's doing in education and bringing light to struggles that her students may have been going through at that time. But I love it. Thank you for sharing.
And why do you think it's important to follow your passions, do something you love?
I think it's so important because it is really just the key to be happy. I think especially when we're encouraged to go to school and we're encouraged to get a job and work that 9 to 5, it's a big key to be able to figure out how can I be happy in what I'm doing from 9 to 5. And a lot of that has to do with going to your passion and looking for it and seeing how it comes into play in different areas. And that was something that really happened to me, especially when I started my journey in social work, was social work wasn't just in this setting where it's just me and you talking about hard things. Social work is in the community when I'm talking to my neighbor and I'm asking them, oh, what can I help you with? Oh, I'm having trouble accessing a doctor. Okay, let me help you. Social work shows up in different ways for me, and that's how I've been able to really see how my passion kind of blooms in other areas, not just my institution where I work at. It goes beyond that. So I think, but that has to do with the fact that I chased my dreams and I really found a passion in what I do.
And so just to wrap this up, is there anything that you would like to add or mention that I did not get to ask you today?
No, I don't think so. We touched on so many things. I'm so excited.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this episode. And thank you so much for everybody listening, for giving this podcast a chance. I hope you guys learned something new or gained some inspiration from Jennifer here to maybe pursue your own passions. Please remember to subscribe to this channel and make sure you don't miss any future episodes. And I will link my social media in the description so you can catch highlights from this episode as well as teasers for the next guest. We have another amazing inspirational woman ready to share her story. So until next time, and remember, these are the real lives of real people who deserve to be unstereotyped.